Good morning, friends. Welcome to our weekly edition. This is a new series we have started called Unlock Brand by Bradford. Before we begin, I'll give you background about Bradford. Bradford is a 30-year-old licensing company, licensing agency, which started in US and worked with all the major iconic brands. Like Pepsi has been the oldest client for Bradford for many, many, many years. But now we manage a lot of corporate trademarks, entertainment companies, and a lot of Indian brands. So this is a special series we have started because we feel that there is a much bigger opportunity. Historically, Bradford has been working with bringing a lot of global brands and extending those brands to the licensees in India, which we have a tremendous success. We were the pioneers of licensing in India, a more organized form of doing licensing. But we feel that there is a much bigger opportunity which nobody has really looked at. And that opportunity is actually unlocking Indian brands. So how Indian brands can also unlock their value and extend their brand to multiple other categories which they currently don't get. But before we start, I will give you first the background about what is licensing and how it works. So licensing is essentially a brand extension. Wherever you IP or a brand which you extend it to another category and pass it on to a licensee against a certain amount of royalty, that becomes licensing. Licensing is widely used in all categories, and I'll give you some data on that. It's currently by Lima. Lima is the association for licensing, is a global association for licensing. They give the industry stands at about 262 billion US dollars. So it's a very large marketplace which has already been built. Large part of that comes 45% which is about 118 billion would come only from the what I call entertainment in character. India, it's very small, but globally, it's a very, very large contributor. Obviously, the big boys like Disney's and the Warners and Turner and all these companies would come in that. India, still, it's very small. This has to be a lot of work to be done. And again, it has to be done at both ends in terms of unlocking these global brands, which I think in the entertainment and character space, we all recognize. But also, there is a huge opportunity to build a lot of Indian IPs. I'm very proud of a company which we had working with almost when the idea was perceived was a company called Green Gold, which runs a character for many, many years. So this company has built Chota Bheem as a character, and Chota Bheem at one point in time was one side as holding on the ground, and all the other characters put together was not even there. So there can be many other opportunities which can come in, and that character has survived and lived and been still very relevant. Last 15 years, we have a great association with the company, and they continue to thrive. And I feel that India has potential to create much more IPs. And lately, we have found in last 5 years, a lot of Indian IPs either has been redefined or created. 2 years back, we worked with Chota Singham, which was again a Little Singham, which was also created by Reliance Entertainment and Bradford together. So we have seen a growth in the entertainment and character space, but I still feel that a lot to be done. Very little has been done in this space. But other areas which also contribute is a very large contribution comes from a corporate and brand trademarks, which is the next contributor. It contributes 21% of the overall licensing space. And corporate trademark is been actually in India for a very, very long period. I mean, the brands we've actually grown up on were historically licensing brand. I'll give you an example of a brand called Calvinator. Now, Calvinator is actually a licensed brand. And then we saw historically in the 90s, a rush of these consumer brands which came to the market. Largely, it was driven by a few companies like Videocon, and a couple of these companies went ahead. And there's a very good case study I'll tell about Videocon. Videocon at one point in time was a very large market shareholder, and they started realizing when LG and Samsung came in the market, they started shrinking their market share. And Mr. Dhoot at that time decided that he will look at licensing, and he got licenses for many brands. And people will not know that this all used to be made in one single factory. So from a brand like Electrolux or a brand like Philips or multiple other brands, Thomson, Toshiba, Akai, Sansui, all these were licensed brands, and they were coming out of the same factory. Each one of them were taking a small share, and overall collectively company still had a share above 30% because Sansui would have maybe a 2% share, something would have another share. So he created a lot of these licensing And as a consumer, they've differentiated in the market a little bit their positioning and price points and structure, but overall as a company, we were able to do that. It was a very smart strategy at that time, and many other companies followed that strategy. And now a lot of organized retail companies also follow that strategy. They really put a basket of brands outside to the consumer and use that. So corporate trademark and brand are a very important category. Fashion is a very big category. Fashion again in India has a big impact. So if you see the portfolio of the companies like Madura and Arvind, they largely have a licensed brand. So as a consumer, you would not understand that Alan Solly is a license. Tommy Hilfiger is a license. So a lot of these brands extend into their core categories, and sometimes they also extend into non-core categories. We'll talk about that in the presentation. Then sports is another category which contributes about 25 billion, about 10% of the global space. India also, because of the leagues coming in, this got a little bit structured, but again, very limited to 3 or 4 leagues which have been able to actually license that. Other companies were not able to unlock. And we will talk about why companies are not able to do it. Because a lot of times you think that just being having a sports league, you will be able to license. That doesn't work because it doesn't create any connect with the consumer. And there are many reasons for it, and we will touch upon a couple of reasons. And I've seen that about 60 odd sports leagues in India, and only about 3 would have what I call effective licenses working in the entire thing, and rest of them have relatively either no licensing program running or a very small short program running in business. So these are publishing in another category, which contributes about 7%, another 17 odd billion. So between these 5 categories, the large part of licensing would work. Now, India, we see a very big opportunity, as I started with, because India has a lot of made in India brands, and I feel that they're very iconic. They're historically been there, and there is an opportunity to unlock these brands and take it to the next level. And that's what we're trying to do. And especially now when the entire consumer space is very well defined. We have a lot of organized distribution now in place, and particularly now in this post-COVID period and whatever this, people becoming more vocal for local and opportunities of that, made in India brands would always appreciated by consumers. So this is one of the research we found, that unlike in other markets like China, compared with China, people everything they want to buy is Western. So that's a consumer mindset there. They really prefer international brands. But in India, we always had a stronger inclination towards Indian brands. But the problem was that Indian brands with the right kind of quality was not available. So people would go to that. So there is never a problem in terms of the brand struggle. While aspiration, if we are able to show a great product and a good aspiration in the brand, and if it is Indian origin, consumers will not mind. While in some countries, there is a problem. There is a problem where people always look at brands outside. So I think there is a huge opportunity for Indian market, for Indian homegrown brands, that they can unlock their value. Now let's go into how the licensing really works, and especially in India. Now I'm putting more Indian perspective to it. I've realized that there are 2 very strong things which is to be there in any licensing structure. Just being popular is no answer. I mean, a lot of times we get brands coming to us and they're very popular, but I don't see these 2 things. Unless and until I see these 2 things in any brand, I don't think there is a merit to run a full licensing program. And this might be even a star or a celebrity. If we don't see in that celebrity these 2 things, Bradford would not go in the journey of taking that assignment. One is very clearly the emotional connect. Indian consumer has to have an emotional connect. If you don't have that emotional connect with your customers, you have the story which is about you, and there is a value in that, then only you will be able to get through. And first is very clearly the emotional connect. The second piece, which is also very popular, is that is there an unlock value available in that? An unlock value is that what is a larger purpose? Can we leverage that purpose itself? What is the personality of that brand? Is the personality extendable? And these are 2 very important aspects to do. It's like brands behave like humans, right? They have to have a larger purpose behind it. And what is that purpose, and how can we leverage that purpose? And second is what is the personality? What is the so if we are able to get this, what we call emotional connect and a little bit of unlock value, then we can extend that brands. This is also a great time because we feel that at this stage, getting a brand, especially for if you are a manufacturer or an exporter, you have a great ability. Like most of the leather goes from India, a good high quality, markets on, especially all the luxury brands in the world would buy products from India. Home furnishing goes from India, one of the largest home furnishing from going there. But we are not bringing the same product in India. Whenever exporters try to get to do looking at domestic market, this is a great time because exports would change, imports for many countries would also change. So licensing would thrive at this time. This is a great time for licensing. So it's a good time because a lot of people would look at domestic market. And when they look at domestic market, the challenge they face is that how they take their brand, because most of the times just taking a good product without a brand becomes very, very difficult. But the distribution system would not adopt it, and the consumer would not be able to accept it because it doesn't have the brand. But if you marry a good product and bring in a great brand and then take it to the market, it will be good. Second, I think for a lot of brand owners, it's also an opportunity because they sometimes stick to one category and just keep doing that one category. Like I have a very dear friend, and I've been telling him to extend a brand which is called Da Milano. Now, Da Milano is a top class brand available in all travel retail. Everybody sees that, but they are in bags. But what stops Da Milano to extend itself to a lot of other categories, and which can be even footwear. And so these are opportunities which are available for many of the companies. Some companies have already started working with us, and we will do a presentation now and give you some background on that. So the 6 things which are very important before you really start thinking as a licensing as an opportunity for you. First is, where do you want to extend? You cannot extend everywhere. You need to be very focused and see the category which you want to really extend it. Selection of a licensee is very, very critical, because I feel that in licensing, I give 90% marks on selection of a licensee. And for me, the only criteria licensee has to bring in is established distribution. Because a lot of times I've seen people take a license of a brand and they have no distribution, and they're feeling that because they've taken the brand, they will build the distribution. Actually, it's the other way around. If you have the distribution and you bring in a brand, and you're able to ride faster, so you can go much faster in the market. Brand application also is very important. Unless and until, and that's where Bradford specializes in, just extending a brand and it's just a logo, it doesn't work. Unless and until you build the full story around it and you do the full extension of the brand. And we do the complete brand manuals, brand guidelines, and so on and so forth, and mood boards, and everything else needs to be done. It's a full work to be done. Then only you can take the brand to the market. Control and compliance is extremely important. How do you really, from a manufacturing process to distribution process, the entire thing has to be controlled and has to be too much compliant, because end of the day, brand is on the stake. And this is something which I've learned from global organizations. They are extremely firm on this part. Another thing which you need to do is you need to bring in audit. When you license to somebody, you need to bring in audit on 3 areas, what I call product, sales, and brand. So you not need to do the product quality audit. You need to do a sales audit, which needs to be coming. You need to have a sales figures, and we have very different mechanism Bradford has built to do that. And also you need to do a brand audit. And finally, you need to really work with the licensee on a year-on-year growth plan, how the market share on a year-on-year. These are 6 things which are very important. So this would be a weekly initiative where we will talk about giving a lot of knowledge on licensing. We'll also talk about best practices, what has been worked for companies and what is not worked. We'll also talk about case studies. We'll pick up 1 week, 1 case study and say how that brand was extended, what kind of numbers started coming in. We'll also talk sometimes on design side. So we will give you presentations on some of the brand extensions we have done. And also we will bring in some guests on these weekly webinars to do a little bit of what I call industry networking and so on and so forth. So this is going to be the structure of a weekly Unlock Brand series. So now I'd like to bring in my colleague Vatsal to present one presentation we have made for you, which will give you a little overview about how this.
Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful knowledge and passing on the mic to me. Dheeraj, can I have the presentation, please?
It's already there.
Okay. Thank you. So Thank you so much, sir. Once again, I would like to share, the way the licensing has entered in the Indian market. Okay, and I would say the existence of licensing was already there in the India, for the past 30, 40 years. But if I talk about the recent gain, which actually we started off with, it was with, let's say, coming up with all these characters, coming up with this all international brands, and they brought in huge demand amongst the consumers, amongst the retailers, amongst the trade, where people started accepting licensing as the next opportunity to extend the brand and get into new markets, get into new product segments, get into or tap a wider audience actually. Okay, so brand licensing, as sir said, it's basically extension of the core product into other categories and reach wider audience basically. So even if whatever the categories, or let's say even if I'm seeing a Disney t-shirt, it's not necessary that Disney is doing that. Okay, so they have licensed out their brand, and this Disney's, if I talk about, so they have been one of the biggest licensor in the world actually. Okay, so they have been into licensing for the past 40, 50 years basically. Okay, so this is one. Can I have the next slide, Dheeraj? So, of course, when it comes to licensing, there is no stopping to opportunities that we can bring into the table for a brand, and right from growing the brand to reach a wider audience, to building stronger relationship with the customers, or diversifying the revenues, creating a revenue stream out of it. Basically, expand your brand into multiple other product categories, uh, protect your brands against. So a lot of infringements. I would like to share this one thing with you. We have seen a lot of infringements happening in the Indian market. Probably we see a lot of Nike brands shoes which are selling, or let's say Adidas brand shoes which are already selling. In fact, I've also seen a couple of Old Monk T-shirts which is being sold out in a couple of markets. Old Monk, such a heritage brand, with coming up with such a legacy, but they have never been able to capitalize on the brand value that they have created. Okay, we can plan a lot of extensions with the brand like Old Monk. Okay, we can come up with, let's say, t-shirts, we can come up with fashion apparels, we can come up with men's personal grooming. So a lot of things that comes in place when it comes to the licensing.
And
uh, you have your
infringement part, I'll give you a live case study, and sometimes it's also ignorance. There was a company in Bombay about 10 years back. We were told by one of our clients to go and check on them, and we checked that they were running over 200 crore backpack business, and they were using all the characters from different parts. And we approached them for one of the brands, and they were infringement was going on, and the owner didn't know that what he was doing. And then I actually educated him that you're running a large business. 200 crore business is a very large business for backpacks and school bags and all of other things. Why don't you regularize this and take all these licenses which you use, and which would help you also to get a better dollar value? Which means the same backpack which you're selling for 300 rupees, you might get a 400 rupees for that. But now because it's a branded and it's authentic, that would be one. Second, a lot of other competition is out there in the market which are also trying to do what you're trying to do. You will be able to differentiate. You will not believe he actually hired Bradford. We did a full licensing strategy. All the licenses he was using, which he was not paying any royalties, he converted them and took the category with him. And then he is the one who went out to all of other people and to stop them also to use it. But now he had authorized potential licensee, and then he started stopping all the other infringements which were happening in the market. So this was a very big case study. Sometimes people do it because of their ignorance. They don't know why how they're using these global IPs. Oh, go ahead, Vatsal. Yeah, Vatsal, you can continue. Vatsal, you can start.
So I think he has a network problem. He'll be logging in again soon.
Okay. So by the time he comes in, I'll take over the presentation to keep the brand controls in your grip while your licensing partner taps the new markets. Splash your brand visibility across logical sectors. Strategically, this is very important, and we'll talk about you should take how do you start a licensing program. I always advise that pick up one or two top categories, which are absolutely natural extension for you. Whatever the brand stands for, whatever the soul stands for, and pick up those categories and develop a full program on that. A lot of times I've seen people become opportunist and they try to pick up small hanging fruits of smaller categories, which actually spoil the licensing program. I think there is a cycle of licensing which also works in a similar manner, which is what I call a growth stage. Growth stage, pick up some 2 or 3 top categories, develop those categories, go deeper with the licensee and work on that. And then you get into more penetration stage where you go into more wider licensing program, which means you get all the categories open and go and try to leverage that entire thing. And then there is a saturation stage where you've pretty much done all the entire thing. And now how you reinvent the brand and find new categories. And now these days we work with companies on a lot of hybrid franchising also. Like, for example, we did a program for Marie Claire, which is a magazine, a big program we have run for them. We've done fashion, we've done a lot of other categories for them. And later we actually extended them to salons. So now they run a full hybrid format of a salon. Now it was a very clearly being a fashion brand, unlocking their value in getting into a salon category. And so you can also diversify your merchandise, brand merchandise, by widening the product range, and can be both marketing tool and a product development tool. So this is the next slide, please. Is Vatsal back? Yeah, Vatsal, you can lead now.
Yeah. So there are various genres where we look forward to when it comes to licensing, basically. So if I talk about sports, so one of the biggest example India has is the IPL, actually. Okay, IPL started off let's say 10 years back, and they have humongous numbers when it comes to revenue, basically. Okay. When it comes to entertainment, of course, a lot of characters are there which have created a lot of journey across the TV series to OTT platforms to across where they have got into completely licensing merchandise also. Corporate, when it comes to corporate brands, definitely we have got Acer, we have got brands like Usha Shriram. So they have already done this licensing and they have created such a good product segments through licensing only. One of our biggest example in when it comes to corporate also, I would like to share that Philips. Philips, apart from the core category that we have, that's bulbs and all of that, every single category that you see for Philips are all licensed across the globe. Okay. When it comes to celebrity, of course, we have got HRX by Hrithik Roshan. We have got Wrong by Virat Kohli. So these are all prominent Indian brands which has come up with celebrities, actually. When it comes to music, a lot of Saregama has come up with this Caravan. So that's one of the examples for that. Okay. Arts, so a lot of Frida Kahlo is one of the art examples which when it comes to the art segment. Okay.
Just to add on that, I feel that entertainment and the space of sports has not been able to take off in India, and the major reason is timing. So when you look at the Western world and see the success of these companies, and I've been part of many of these discussions globally, they work on, say, a movie is coming, and the movie is going to release in 2023. The discussion on licensing starts now. How do you inbuild in the movie? What kind of a structure would done? The partnership goes at that level. So the licensee also actually starts preparing at least 1 year before the entire structure. In India, the problem is that we start thinking of licensing around the release of a movie or any content which goes in. So you have no time to bring the right product, get the right shelf space, put it on the shelf space, and window is very small, and then it lasts only for 3 weeks. But similarly for IPL also, people start talking about licensing just when the IPL is going to come in. And so they're not able to maximize. So a lot of licensees actually paid a big license fees for these programs, and they were not able to recover that money, and hence they would not repeat themselves in the next edition or next season. Why? Because they will not be able to do that. So the problem is actually timing in that space. So I've realized that if you set the timing right, if you're talking about a next year IPL, the discussion should start now, and how we want to leverage it, what kind of activations we need to do, and then only you will be able to do that. Then that's one of the biggest problem in sports and entertainment. Over to you, Vatsal.
Thank you, sir. So, of course, when it comes to licensing, so you have to divide the brands across the the values that we have created over a period of 10 years, over a period of 20 years, basically. Okay. So there are brands who come up with an aspirational value. There are brands who come up with a recall value. There are brands who come up with a strong retail value. Of course, and then there are brands who come up with celebrity essence as well. So when it comes to aspirational value, so it's Heritage's brand. They are coming up with a legacy. They have got huge unlock potential, but they have never realized that that they can be extended into various other product categories. Old Monk is one such brand. Bombay Dyeing is there. HMT, IFT, MRF. So these are the brands which have holding a huge power with them, but they have never actually unlocked them to get into new segments basically. Okay, because of course, and they have got huge aspiration also that they have been carrying. When it comes to aspiration, there is also a trust factor which is attached with it. So if I talk about a brand like Milton, we have been seeing lunch boxes, we have been seeing water bottles. But today, if I plan Milton's kitchenware or Milton's cookware or Milton's, let's say, kitchen appliances, people will buy that because they have that trust factor. Okay, fine, Milton ka hai, acha hai, take it. So that's there. When it comes to recall value, of course, Onida, there, brands like Onida or Uncle Chips or Campa Cola or Monte Carlo or Milton, of course, they are coming with such a recall value that there is at any given point of level, there is an emotional connect which is attached with them. Okay. Retail value, these brands, of course, possess a huge retail presence in the Indian market, which people can easily, or a licensee can easily connect with. I know, okay, for Blackberries, they have got multiple stores across the Indian market. They have got multiple channels. They are doing really wonderful. If tomorrow somebody has to plan Monte Carlo, sorry, Blackberries footwear, or let's say Da Milano's apparels, he would be ready to do that and he would be ready to connect with that. In fact, for Bira as well, Titan, Biba, all these brands. When it comes to celebrity essence, of course, already we have seen a growth and we have seen a path where already brands like HRX, Wrong, brands like Being Human, they have already paved a path for these celebrities to come into and extend their name and get into, right from fashion apparels to grooming to any other category that they can work out. When it comes to the tenure, so the tenure depends on the category to category and depends on the genre to genre. If you talk about a character licensing, so it's generally a short-term deals that generally goes in for, let's say, if somebody wants to do Chota Bheem back to school, probably it might last for a years also. Okay. But when it comes to, let's say, Onida, let's say, televisions or something like that, so these are perpetual licensing, which goes for close to about 10 years or 12 years, basically. Okay. Long-term deals, so these are long-term deals. Short-term deals, again, it comes like I would say somebody's coming with, let's say, Alberto Torres's backpacks, or somebody's coming with Alberto Torres's, let's say, apparels or something like that. So that's 4 years or 5 years, 3 plus years. That's the tenure which goes in, basically. Okay.
FMCG does a lot of short-term deals,
Yeah.
because promotion. Say Kellogg is running a small promotion for next 2 months, or they want to do something for some flavor or something like that. So they can really bring in a promotional licensee. Maybe it can be character or it can be strategic brand, which can come along with Kellogg and they run it for 2 months and then it is out of the shelf. So a lot of promotional work we did. So like we did for Pepsi's a 7-Up character, a Fido, which we did some extension with a promotional or a capsule collection for
Forever 21.
Yeah, so for a fashion for Forever 21. Yeah.
So this is how the whole mechanism work when it comes to the licensing. So there is the brand, the licensor, okay, there is the retailer, the licensee, and then that's the agents which comes in, who creates the complete definition, who creates the complete roadmap, who creates the complete strategy, how, what is immediate categories, what immediate extensions that can be planned, keeping the DNA of the brand in mind. Okay, so this is how the whole mechanism works. This is how the whole structure works when it comes to the licensing. So there are brands who have developed their own licensing team and doing that. So companies like Disney and all, so they have got their own in-house team and they are taking care of that. Apart from this, Bradford is one of the biggest consultants who have been into licensing for the past 30 years basically, and they have been managing the top of the top brands, right from Lamborghini to Pepsi to all of them. This is a quick snapshot on the kind of global sales that licensing industry has been witnessing in the past 3-4 years, and every fifth year we have been seeing the growth almost around 8% basically. Okay, so $280 billion. So this is what the sales that was for the 2019. If I talk about the sales by region, so US and Canada leads the market when it comes to licensing market. And following to it, US and Canada, we have got Asia Pacific market, which is China and which is again running up and ramping up the licensing market very fast, basically. When it comes to property, of course, entertainment characters, as I said, characters has got a huge scope when it comes to right from the Marvels to Disney's to all the big giants. So they have got the wider scope when it comes to licensing. Characters is always going to be there, and it's going to stay in the market for a longer tenure. Corporate, again, another big segment which is there. Fashion is again followed by that. Sports, collegiate, celebrity, music, and arts. That's how the whole market is dominated when it comes to licensing, category-wise or genre-wise. Now, of course, the Indian licensing market, which is growing heavily, that's sitting at $1.4 billion as of 2019. The most flourishing categories in the Indian market are also fashion and character entertainment, followed by corporate. As of 2018, the royalties from the licensed merchandise was close to about $100 million and still growing. So this is actually where I would like to share a couple of things. When it comes to licensing, India has always been a manufacturing hub. You talk about brands like Inditex, be it Zara, H&M, or whatever the brands that we talk about. The manufacturing has always been the Indian. India has always been the manufacturing hub for all these brands. But we never knew how to sell, how to grow, or how to brand, or how to retail. Basically, it was all the international US brands who came into the Indian market. They created that branding stuff when it came to the designing part. This was all the European brands who came into the Indian market and they created that designing part. Okay, and this is where the things started realizing when initially it was all the big corporates like Reliance, Aditya Birla to Arvind who brought all this licensing thing in the Indian market. But slowly and gradually, in fact, when this e-commerce players started coming in, right from Flipkart to Myntra and all of that, okay, they started paving a huge a roadmap for this Indian brands to actually realize their potential and get into the licensing and adopt licensing as their core revenue stream. And this has actually happened. And a couple of brands that we started working with nationally, we saw that there was a huge success with the national brands actually when it came to comparison between the international and national brands. Because if I talk about, let's say, Monte Carlo, if I talk about, let's say, Blackberries, the licensee has been seeing this brand for the past 20 years in front of his eyes. Okay, probably he may not be knowing the international brand which I'm going to pitch him or I'm going to share with him. So उसके लिए वो शायद थोड़ा सा difficult होगा कि how this international brand is going to happen in the Indian market if I have to set up that Indian international brand in the Indian market. So I have to start from scratch. But for, let's say, Monte Carlo, getting Monte Carlo footwear is an easy task for him because people know about the brand. So this where the success ratios we started getting in, and we actually realized that there is a huge potential with this Indian brands, and we should actually unlock their core values and extend them into various product categories. So now licensing, as I said, now it's not only restricted to Arvind or Aditya Birla. A lot of SMEs and a lot of manufacturers has come up and they have started taking up licenses actually. Okay, they've actually started their uh, exports has hit very badly. Imports, जो China से हो रहे थे, that's all have been hit really badly. And now the entire focus is now going to be on the domestic market, and domestic market is going to open up really fast. Okay, so that's the emergence of all the modern and more organized retail in India. Licensing prospects is now across manufacturers everywhere. Corporate fashion licensing is widely practiced now. The attraction of licensing trademarks for business intentions appears to be at all-time high, basically. Many eminent personalities, they have already started licensing themselves and they have started creating a lot of categories underneath them. And that's a really wonderful thing that's happening, basically. Of course, so this whole agenda, vocal for local, and with the recent development and statements which is coming up, Atmanirbhar and all of that, we actually feel that there is a huge potential with the Indian brands, and they should actually now come up and they should now start licensing their brands. Nobody's waiting for them, nobody's stopping for them, and they should actually capitalize on the brand name or the brand value that they have created over a period of years, basically. Okay. Domestic manufacturers and retailers have already started focusing towards the local business opportunities. Make in India campaigns have already started and garnering a lot of appreciation actually. right time for any brand to start and get into new product lines, new markets, and everything. India's retail industry is heading for a dream run with market pegged at $672 billion, and is again going to grow at a CGAR with 7% over a year and on year, basically. So this is Bradford License India, as Serge already shared that it's been a joint venture with Franchiseindia Group. Again, one of the leading industries and companies when it comes to franchising and licensing, which is Bradford Licensing LLC, which is based out of US. With this same concept, we came up with licensing development programs where we started working on national brands, and we started creating and developing their licensing programs, which not only describes the brand core values, but also describes what the roadmap and what strategies one brand should adopt to get into the licensing. Because there are a lot of avenues when it comes to licensing. I cannot allow a licensee to experiment with the brand at any given point of time. You guys have created, the brands have been created over a period of years, so you have to have certain restrictions, you have to have certain do's and don'ts. क्या करना है वो पता है, क्या नहीं करना है वो भी पता होना चाहिए. So there is a complete strategy, there is a complete focused roadmap that we work on, and we create a complete licensing program which helps the brand to get into the new categories that we have been focusing on, or to get on the categories which is going to match the core DNA of the brand, basically. So this is where, with the same thought, we have started this licensing development process, and we have seen a huge success also with this. Okay, so when it comes to the extensions also, so there's two phases when it goes to let's say when we talk about the extension. One is the primary extension, which goes with the core DNA. Let's say if I talk about a brand like any fashion brand, if I talk about, so the initial extension is going to be the fashion categories that we can look forward to. Let's say if I talk about a brand like Kazo, so probably the immediate extension that we can look forward to is going to be the footwears, or probably I would say lingerie or the nightwear, basically. The secondary extensions that we can look for, Kazoom, might be the watches or the eyewear, basically. So this is how the whole extension goes in. So it actually happens in phases, basically. So there's a phase one which goes with the core DNA, and the second extension goes which matches the phase one extension, basically. So we have the portfolio brands. That's some of the biggest brands in the world, in the Indian market, that we represent, right from GCB to Acer to Westinghouse, Vogue, Marie Claire, Madame, Duke. We have extended the brand very successfully. Recently, we have just joined hands with one of our beer brands also. That's Medusa. That's one of the first Indian beer brand which has come up into licensing. Initially, we have already seen, if you want, you can go to Myntra and you can see Budweiser merchandise is already selling there. Okay. So if I talk about internationally, so right from Jack Daniels to Johnny Walker to Budweiser to Heineken, everybody has got their merchandise. Okay. But in an Indian market, we never realized that this alcohol brands or this liquor brands can actually get into other product segments. And now we started with this with the same thought, because what happens is that Indian market is all about following what is happening in the western part. So that's what is there. So, and that's how we have gained things, and that's how we have created those brands, and that's how we have created those markets and everything. So with the same thought, Medusa, which is one of the beer brands in India, we have started the licensing program with them, and we are going to go ahead with a couple of FMCG categories at the initial stage.
We are also
We have got Perry Ellis.
brands now. There's a new wave which is coming in. Sometimes we look at only fashion and consumer goods, but we don't understand that there is a much bigger audience out there in the industrial space, or a building construction space, or things of that nature. For example, one of the licensing programs which have done very well is a Kamdhenu Sariya. Now, Kamdhenu actually is a very successful brand, and there are few branded TMT players in that. Like, we are also doing one company called SRMB. Now, SRMB is extremely popular. If anybody lives in Calcutta, would know that, because you will see Dhoni's hoardings, and Kapil Dev and Dhoni are two brand ambassadors for SRMB. Very, very popular in the steel space. Now they can extend themselves into cement, they can extend into paints, they can extend into a lot of things, because the brand is very, very popular. That's one. Second, they also license to core category itself in other markets, which means that, say, if I was in UP and doing a TMT, but I have no brand. So if I use that brand of Kamdhenu, then I can obviously also get the better price of that TMT. So a lot of that work is also now going on, and there's a much larger deals happening that. Imagine if a Asian or a Dulux or a players of that nature start extending themselves, then there is a much bigger market and audience available there, and they would be able to get quickly market share. So it's a faster go-to-market strategy. Licensing is a very, very fast go-to-market strategy. It is also have a much better acceptability because you start with a brand rather than building your own brand. Takes it's very, very, very difficult. Not everybody can build their own brand. It takes ages to build a brand. And third, it also gives you a faster distribution, because when you go to an organized distribution channel and present a brand which is already known, it's much faster to take it, especially on the online side. Online side, most of the companies are preferring bringing brands rather than bringing their own private labels. Over to you, Vatsal.
So starting with this national brands, we started with Mida. So we signed off the brand in the year 2018, I would say. And the immediate category that we extended the brand was into fashion jewelry, basically. Now we are going to get into personal grooming as well. That's deodorant and perfumes that we are going to plan for Mida. Alberto Torresi, again, one of our renowned, one of the established footwear brands when it comes to leather foot shoes and all of that, being present across the online retail and offline retail as well. We have just signed up recently, and we have extended the brand into small leather goods. We're coming up with wallets, purses, belts, and all of that. Carlton London, again, a very prominent brand when it comes to footwear. So we signed up close to about a year back. And today we have extended the brand into women apparels, personal grooming, small leather goods, and even bags and backpacks also. And currently we are sitting with a net worth, if I talk about only the license categories that we have extended into. So we are close to about sitting with a network of 4.5 CR as of now, within a period of 1 year, basically. Shiv Naresh, when it comes to a sports brand, local Indian national sports brand, Shiv Naresh, one of the outstanding brand. We have been seeing their apparels across. So we have extended the brands into socks, and we are going to go ahead with sports shoes also. Swiss Military, again, a very dominant brand coming up with a Swiss element. We extended the brand into eyewear, we extended the brand into luggage, watches. So there were 4-5 categories. So if I talk about the network that we are setting for Swiss Military, is close to about 15.5 CR as of now. Duke, again, a very prominent brand when it comes to apparels, fashion apparels, fast fashion. We extended the brand into watches. We extended the brand into small leather goods. We extended the brand into this bags and backpacks also. Coming to a couple of character brands, Bio and Pino started off their animation just a year back, and we signed off, and we did a complete licensing program for them. We developed the complete licensing program for them, and today the brand is extended into back to school apparels, kids apparels. So these are the 2 categories we have been able to extend the brand into, and we are looking forward to have many other extensions as well. Little Singham, again, a property of Reliance. We started off our association just 1.5 years back, and these are the immediate categories what we did was back to school, backpacks, a couple of FMCG extensions was also done, I remember. Again, Chacha Chaudhary, we have got apparels, we have got back to school. Now we have the portfolio of Green Gold animation, that is Chhota Bheem and Mighty Raju. So one of the biggest, again, licensors when it comes to the Indian market. So Chhota Bheem, we had many extensions, and we are really happy to represent them. So right from toys and games to back to school to FMCG to notebooks to lot of stationeries. It was everywhere actually, I would say.
So this is the first edition. We wanted to keep it basic in terms of giving you basic information on licensing. Next week, we'll take up a particular category and go into a specific category and talk about that. And next week category is fashion. So we'll talk about fashion and how new brands have been evolved. A lot of celebrity brands are also being built. So we will like to have you back there. So we'll continue the series in terms of giving you larger overview on licensing, and then take one industry and go deeper into that industry and talk about that. So see you next week, same time, every Wednesday, 11 o'clock on Unlock Brand series. So thank you very much. And if you have any question and you want to reach out to us, Vatsal, if you can put your email ID,
Sure.
chat box. So we'll be more than happy to discuss. And if you want to set up a call, if you are a brand and you are looking for extension, I and Vatsal can come on a call and have a detailed discussion with you. Every Thursday, sorry. I did a mistake. It's Thursday, 11 o'clock. Thank you very much. It was a good starting point, and every week we'll continue to build the community of licensing and encourage anybody who wants to come and join us, and also follow us on our social media to see regular updates. Thank you very much.